Here's a question for you. Are you the rip the Band-Aid off quickly and just get it over with type of person, or are you the person who pulls at it a little bit at a time? One way is quick and more painful, the other is slow and perhaps less painful. Me, I'm the rip the thing off and get it over with type. But Annie, she's the slow and careful type. Are you the jump right into the water kind of person no matter how cold the water might be, or are you the stand on the ladder and allow your body to adjust to every inch of descent until finally, like Neil Armstrong, you take that giant step off the ladder, but still standing on your tippy toes, slowly again adjusting until you can get your feet flat on the liner? Me, well, I'm the jump right in kind of person. But Annie, she's the inch by inch person who says over and over again, it's cold, it's cold. Now, does that mean that Annie is just a wimp and needs to suck it up? I don't think so. I've watched her deliver 4 kids. She's no wimp when it comes to handling pain or taking risk. On the other hand, when I get a cold, I'm the biggest wimp going, and the warrior in me just disappears as I pull the covers up over my head. So what am I talking about? Well, if it's my Band-Aid, I'm just going to rip it off. But if it's Annie's Band-Aid and she's asking me to take it off, I'm not going to use my method. I'm going to use hers. I'm not going to say, look, a white rhinoceros, and quickly pull it off, because she probably wouldn't trust me again the next time. So it's easy to see that we both have different temperaments. In fact, we all have different temperaments for different things. With the coronavirus, I'm having a difficult time gathering the facts. Right now, we're constantly dealing with imperfect information. Information that changes rapidly and is often contradictory. And, that's to be expected. We're dealing with something new, we're on the fly and literally learning as we go, but it just seems to me that our sources of information are more about presenting and maintaining an opposing view than they are with admitting truth, regardless of which side presents it. So how do we as Christians move forward with imperfect information? How do we represent the heart of Christ in everything we do? My approach, I believe, is always to be twofold. To be sensitive and thoughtful towards our church family, and to be sensitive and thoughtful outside our family to the people who we would love to see become part of our family. So concerning the coronavirus and our reopening, what's the best way to be sensitive and thoughtful both inside and outside the church? I think we can reliably recognize this, that there are different temperaments at play. So let's talk about temperaments within our church family first. There are some of us who rip the Band-Aid off quickly people who are just thinking, open the doors and be done. Enough is enough. And there are others who are thinking, let's take this one step at a time and not rush things. And the reality is, regardless of the state's requirements, if we were to even take that off the table, considering both of these temperaments at play, it becomes as straightforward to me as if I were taking a Band-Aid off of Annie's back. Because the reality is, it's far easier for more and more Christ-like for me to adjust my rip the Band-Aid off temperament to Annie's one step at a time temperament. So from within our church family, there are 3 really different temperaments to consider. First, there are those who are not comfortable at all right now with coming back, whether that's because they're in a high-risk category or just a personal preference. For you, please don't feel pressured or think that it's that compromise to your faith to stay home. We will continue to offer a view-at-home option, and we look forward to the day when you can come back. Second, there's the temperament within our church family who are really wanting to come back. And they're willing to take the risk, but only if there is social distancing, masks, and other precautions being taken. For me, having you included as we reopen, and having you back with us sooner rather than later, is far better than ripping the Band-Aid off quickly and causing you to stay home, or to come and be uncomfortable in your church family. And lastly, there There's the rip the Band-Aid off quickly temperaments. And you're comfortable reopening with less restrictions or even no restrictions at all. Well, you have both the easiest and the most difficult part in all of this, because I'm asking you to exercise patience, to perhaps sacrifice your right to rip the Band-Aid off. I'm asking you to set aside the bad taste in your mouth from being told by the state what to do, and come back in a way where the love of Christ and the love that we have for each other sets an example for those currently outside the church family. And again, the plan issued by the state has been helpful in our planning, and if we didn't have their plan, I really don't think our plan would be any different. Now here's my perspective on being sensitive and thoughtful to those outside our church family. Unfortunately, there have been some churches and pastors who have acted with a spirit of defiance in the midst of all of this, and in doing so, while exercising their rights, they've lessened their ability to be heard, and unknowingly, they've added to the wall that people put between themselves and God. It's no secret that our actions in the church are often watched carefully by those critical of the church. And there are those who are moving towards faith and are somewhere between skepticism and belief who have been watching, and they're watching online, and they may be considering to join us once things calm down. And I just feel that if we were to reopen too quickly and in a spirit of defiance, we could find ourselves being lumped in with churches who have lost credibility and have been written off by those outside the church. So for me, if for no other reason, if social distancing and masks and other precautions increased or even kept the same, the likelihood of those outside the church family to come and be part of the church family, I'd gladly follow the state's plan. But at the same time, know this: if we were being forced by the state to deny Christ, or to not be allowed to worship in any way, our actions and our reactions would call for a very different response. So let me tell you briefly what has been happening and what will be happening in the few weeks to come. A few weeks ago, a team was assembled and approved through both the diaconate and the cabinet. Our purpose has been to prayerfully begin planning and thinking about reopening, and to be ready to react to the expected requirements from the state. Well, on Monday, the state released their plan for reopening, and our reopening team met the following day to go over everything line by line. We're now in the process of creating a written plan that will be presented to the diaconate and the cabinet for approval. At this time, we need to collect information from you to know more about your temperament for coming back. That way we can plan and create our plan to present to the diaconate and the cabinet. I would encourage you to please read this week's newsletter. It has more detail than I'm giving you on this video right now. If you're not receiving our newsletter, you can always send an email to prayer@firstchurchnb.org and ask to get a copy. So here's what I'd like to share, and we're hoping for our first service to be back, to us coming back, to be on June 7th. We will also continue to offer a live at-home option for those of you that want to stay home. And someone will be contacting you soon to find more details and ask you some questions about your temperament and how you're going to plan to come back yourself. And then we'll be able to take that information and put it together. At this time, things could change. We need to be careful to say what is happening. But these are our thoughts right now, and we want to get information out to you. Places of worship right now can open at 40% of the number listed on their occupancy permit. These are permits that are issued by your town's local government. In other words, our occupancy permit has been temporarily changed to now have a limit of about 100 people. Changing the occupancy number is really just a tool to help determine how many people can fit in a building while maintaining the 6 feet apart social distancing that we're already adopted and kind of unfortunately used to. And that is part of the requirement that we will need inside the building to keep socially distanced 6 feet apart. There's also a requirement for everyone to wear masks and whenever they're inside the building, entering, exiting inside the building. So after we connect with everyone and we understand the number of people who are coming back, we can make recommendations and finalize our plans. If it's more than 100 people coming back right away, it could be that we may ask some people to skip 1 week out of the month and have some kind of a rotation. But I don't really want to comment before we have all the information. My hope would be that these restrictions will continue to be lessened and lifted at the same rate that people are comfortable returning. Other important information to share: our nursery, Sunday school, fellowship hours are not able to reopen and are still on hold. As we are able to bring these ministries back, then we'll be consulting with the appropriate leaders to help create ministry-specific reopening plans. We'll keep you posted as we know more. I do believe that we will once again be worshiping without restriction, enjoying worship, activities, food, and fellowship together. For now, though, I'm celebrating the thought of being together, even if it's one step at a time.